Hi everyone, and we are live here on Instagram. At the same time, we are recording on YouTube. Good. So the first question that I received is, how is Ireland for management consulting? So the biggest markets for management consulting are actually, first of all, it's the US. So it's the US American market. This is by far the largest market. I think they have around 50% of the consulting market. Then after that, I think it's already UK or Germany. So those are the next two ones. Then we have France, so more the European ones. And I think, then the next one is already China. So Ireland, obviously, is a kind of a small country. But the good thing is that due to the tax regulation there, many large corporates, especially all the tech corporates, they have branches in Dublin, okay? So that's why, although this country is comparably small, there is also a market for consultants. But it's definitely not as big as, for example, the UK is, as Germany is, France, and particularly the US. So if you have, the choice where you go, and, only from a kind of market share perspective, US and Germany and UK are definitely the bigger markets for management consulting. But nevertheless, the size of the market doesn't say much about, your perspectives in management consulting, okay? Because if you say, okay, you want to really specialize on the Irish market, maybe you want to specialize on those tech firms, and if you really build expertise there, I think, you certainly have very good chances to succeed. But you have to be aware that consulting there is not as big and as flexible as it is probably in other countries. Next question, how to move from a backend operation to front-end consulting without tier 1 MBA? So it is difficult, but still feasible, okay? So I would really say that doing an MBA, it doesn't have to be a tier 1 MBA, okay? So maybe it's a tier 2 MBA. If you don't have kind of the requirements, it's very competitive to go to get a top MBA. But nevertheless, there are so many great business programs out there. If you go, so the resource that I always recommend is the Financial Times MBA ranking. Okay. And there are like 30 to 50 business schools, and I would say if you have an MBA from those schools, this should be sufficient. You don't have to go to Harvard, to Wharton, MIT, LBS all the time. It's just, a good tier 2 MBA should be also, a door opener. Okay, so I would look for those. So check out the Financial Times MBA ranking. Okay, so this is typically, a very good reference on where MBAs rank, and then check out maybe the top 30 MBAs and see if there is something for you. And also, maybe you don't have to join, if you say front-end consulting, whatever that means, this means probably like business consulting, strategy consulting. Maybe you don't start with, applying for McKinsey, BCG, Bain, because it's typically very competitive to get in there. Maybe, it also makes sense to join a tier 2 consultancy first, or a smaller consultancy, and, get some experience there and then take the next step up. Okay, so depending on what your goal is. But I would say, just to summarize, take a look at the top 30 MBAs, see if something is in there for you. And if you send out 30 applications, if you have a, sufficient GMAT, I'm pretty sure the chances are good that you will get, a place at some of those MBAs. And then also, maybe you take a step in between before you go for the very, very big companies. Maybe in the meanwhile, I can give you a short update what's going on my projects and on what I'm doing at the moment. So we are at our project in the second phase. So as you maybe know, my last project was more like a transformation project where I was responsible for the more or less the cost-cutting stream of the transformation project, and this was like a team of 3 people that I led, and this was until December. last year, and this year I'm more focused on the digitization strategy of the company. And this is really interesting. This is completely different to what I did before, and there we have to think about what can we do, or what kind of aspects can we consider to digitize the company. And it's my first real full-time digitization project. And I'm surprised, how quickly, it gets operational, because, of course, you formulate a kind of digital strategy. So this means that you take a look at, technologies. So you do technology screening, think about, okay, how can different technologies help our client? You also take a look, at important tools that we can implement or update. You take a look at the processes. You also, a huge part is change management. So how can you change the culture of the company to become more digital, to become more agile? This is also a huge part. But I'm really surprised, how quickly the strategy assessment is done, and how quickly you go into the operational stuff, because what you try to do is to derive measures, okay, and to really kind of implement or initiate initiatives, okay, to get the digitization started. And what you typically do, hi, nice to have you here. What you typically do is that you try to have an iterative approach. So if you digitize something, it's not that you have a huge digitization strategy. It's more that you have in an agile mindset, more like, okay, you do one initiative first, then you do another, then another. And this is really interesting. It's a different way of working, because typically if you work on a large strategy for a company, it's more like, you take always a look at the big picture, and it's more like a typical, I would say, waterfall planning what you have. It's a very classical project approach. But now if you talk about digitization of a company, it's very agile, even in strategy consulting. So I was surprised about that, but nevertheless a great experience, and it's basically a lot of fun. The other thing that's going on in my life is obviously the channel Mastering Consulting. So as you have noticed, I'm very strong pushing the YouTube channel at the moment. So I try to publish a video on a daily basis at the moment, and yeah, it's going well so far. I mean, YouTube is pretty tough to build, especially at the beginning. And what is also interesting, maybe you guys can give me some feedback on that, because what I realized, I mean, I have quite some, we have quite a community on Instagram, but it's really hard to get you guys from Instagram to YouTube. So obviously, this is also something new to me, that because I use all of that, privately. I love YouTube because this is more like a long-term format, and if I'm looking for input for myself, then I always or very often watch YouTube videos or listen to them, and because you have long-term formats. On Instagram it's more like short-term format. You just have like a story, you just have a picture, so it's really hard to communicate larger concepts on Instagram. So that's why I also I'm focused on YouTube, because I think the topics I talk about, especially about consulting, about the skill set, about what kind, the concepts behind it, this is much better to explain in a long-term format, like on a YouTube video, compared to just making a post or something on Instagram. That's why I'm pushing the YouTube channel at the moment. But it's really hard at the beginning, and I realized, and many of you guys who follow my content on Instagram, I think not many of you also use YouTube. So this is very interesting. But I'm pushing the YouTube channel at the moment. One video per day is my current pace. I hope that I can keep it up to get some traction there, and yeah, so that's what I do. Question: why don't you market your channel using digital marketers, students at business schools, and GMAT aspirants? Yeah, good question. Hey, Tobias, a former JBB colleague. Nice to have you here. Yeah, well, the question is, the thing is, it's very time consuming to run a channel. So, and it's really a lot of work to produce the content. And what I also realized that it's a lot of work, to coordinate other people. Okay, so I have like roughly 10 to 20 hours per week to work on this channel. And I want to focus my entire time, or not the entire time, but most of the time on producing content. Okay. And the thing is that, if I have too many people that I have to manage, I'm more like managing people and not really producing content. And that's, the tough thing about a content business-based business. And that's why I have support. So my girlfriend supports me with doing the Instagram posts and the thumbnails and so on. So big shout out to her. She's responsible for all the thumbnails and so on, and most of the Instagram posts. But I'm not at a stage at the moment where I wanted to involve too many people. Okay, so that's why I try to keep it small. I try to keep up the pace, because I think quality content always will survive. And my philosophy is that if I'm able to produce high quality content on a daily or at least a very regular basis, that the channel will grow by itself. Of course, I try to grow it through collaborations, through certain campaigns, but working together with business schools, or other organizations, we will see if that comes in the future. But for the moment, I really try, to bring more value to you guys. Also, as you probably noticed, I'm working on the courses, on the programs. So there are 2 programs out there this weekend. So the first one is the Consulting Career Circle. So this is for people who want to join consulting and want to know how can I get into consulting, even, if I don't have the perfect CV. So if you don't have, if you don't are a 4.0 GPA student, if you don't are from top tiers at business schools, because this is what I experienced myself, and I still made it into management consulting and have a very successful career, I would say. And the other course will be the consulting, I don't know about the name, it will be Consulting Preparation Circle or Consulting Mastery Circle, I'm not sure about that. And this will be a circle, which will be only focused on the consulting skills. So here we talk about, how to build PowerPoint slides, how to work on Excel, how to learn communication, how to organize. And this is really like will be probably, be my core product, because, I'm all about the skills, and my philosophy is that, if you have the skills, your CV doesn't matter that much, okay? And both formats will be a membership. So I experimented with a course format. So especially, for the consulting crash course was my first course, where I said, okay, this is one course for in a special price for roughly 99 euros. But I switched the strategy. I say, okay, let's do a membership. The Consulting Career Circle will be roughly about 10 euros per month, and the Preparation Circle will be 25 euros per month. And in both you will have weekly updates. So okay, instead of giving you a course that you have to work through from the beginning to the end, it's rather like a weekly update, because that gives me the flexibility to prepare content on a weekly basis. And for you it's great, because every week you have a new input, okay, and you are also we can discuss what you want to know about, what you want to learn about. So that's my philosophy behind the courses and the programs that I give out at the moment. Any people you can suggest to follow on LinkedIn and other mediums? Well, it highly depends what you're interested in. If we talk about consulting, then of course, Heinrich from Firm Learning, certainly a great place to learn about presentations and communications. I can list a few, especially a few platforms with whom I collaborated. So Heinrich, obviously from Firm Learning, he has a focus on communication in consulting. He also talks a little bit about Excel and other stuff, but his main program is about communication and presentation building. Really great course, I can highly recommend it. Then I know Women in Consulting, so this is definitely for all the women out there, because I can totally understand that the consulting industry is a very male or industry that is dominated by men. And I know it's very tough for female consultants. So this is, Women in Consulting, great platform for female consultants. Then we have Key to the Top. This platform is more focused on, product manager level. And obviously my channel, is focused on the consulting skills in a broader sense. Okay, so we talk about Excel, we talk about PowerPoint, we talk about problem solving, and so on. And then, of course, there are many, many, many resources out there that help you to get into consulting. And like Prep Lounge, like In and Out, and many others. And then it depends what you're interested in. I'm interested in topics like entrepreneurship and management, stuff like that. And there are also many great, channels out there. So if you maybe write, what you're interested in, and I can be more specific about that. Okay, does Stern Stewart hire English-speaking people in Germany, or are our practices in German? We do hire English-speaking people. But if you want to work in Germany, then it's always very helpful to speak German. Okay, so but it's the same. If you apply for McKinsey in a German city or location, then they also require you to speak English, because the thing is that if you're on a project, chances are high that sometimes you have to work with people on a more operational level. If you maybe go to a production site and analyze some processes or whatsoever. And you cannot always, be sure that those people speak English. So it's always important, that you speak German if you work in Germany, okay? And so that's why we also, as Stern Stewart, require you to speak German. If your German is not as good as your English, I think, it's still okay if your CV is convincing. Yeah. And, Stern Stewart has branches outside, but we're mainly hiring in the German area. So we are focused mainly on European market, but our project, we most of the time work for the large European and German corporates. And then, the projects, they can be anywhere, because typically if you're hired by the headquarter of, let's say, Siemens, for example, then of course, you also fly to different branches and so on. Okay, it always depends where you get hired. If you don't have any more questions, then thank you for spending your time with me today. It was, as always, a pleasure. If you have any questions, then just write them via direct messaging. And then I hope to talk to you soon. Hope to see you next week. Next Saturday, probably we do the next live Q&A. Until then, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.